everyone. We're pleased to have Myles Hopkins here with us. He's a strategic system thinker whose strength lies in seeing the bigger picture and understanding how that will translate across the full internal and external ecosystems that his clients operates within. He is the founder of Be Agile and been around for more than, he's the founder, as I said, of Be Agile and been around for more than 20 years, building his experience as a consultant and advisor for companies and organizations who wants to place the customer at the heart of everything, be it enabling through winning market strategies, focused innovations, seamless and timely delivery, digital solutions, and real-time business intelligence, etc., etc. Without further ado, Myles, I'd like to introduce your talk and what you call the new normal. The stage is yours, my friend.
Thank you very much, Isami, and good morning to everyone that's attending. I'm really honored to be here. I want to thank Isami and Laila and the rest of the team that have put this conference together, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some insights today. So I'm just going to quickly get my presentation up. That's not the one I'm looking for. So let me get this going and then we'll be straight into it. I want to change the display settings quickly. The display is right across your screen. Excellent. That should be good for everyone. So so thanks again, Isami. So Myles Hopkins here from Be Agile, and the title a little bit different to what you have in your program, but very much the same flavor, which is celebrating the new abnormal, the agile way. A lot of people talk about where we're living in post-COVID, well, during COVID and post-COVID as the new normal. I was told that I need to not speak too quickly because there's people interpreting. So I'm going to try and remember that as I go. I get very passionate about what I speak about, so I will try my best to just slow it down a little bit. There's nothing normal about the new world we live in. If you think about it, this particular conference was meant to take place in Paris last year in person, and here we are all sitting, some of us in our pajamas, not me by the way, but other people in their pajamas, people from all over the world able to attend, and there really is nothing normal about the world we live in. I'm talking to you from Johannesburg, South Africa. We're going into a third wave of COVID. We've just gone to level 3 in terms of our lockdown. And we're pretty concerned about where it's going. So things are changing a little bit. So just very quickly about Be Agile. On the right, you'll see all the places where we've delivered work all over Africa, Europe, Australia, the Americas. We also have offices all around the world. We're the only gold partner for Scaled Agile based in Africa and the Middle East. And also very, very exciting for us last year, we won the World Agility Forum Award for community work. We're very involved in the Agile community globally. So let's think about COVID-19, and I'm sure we're all sick and tired of hearing about this, but many people talk about COVID-19 and saying that it was a black swan event. Now, black swan event means that it's something that we couldn't have predicted. But in fact, in a transmission in 2015, Bill Gates actually predicted that we were not ready for the next epidemic. So that was the 3rd of April, 2015. He predicted that we would have he said an epidemic at that time, not a pandemic, which obviously is much worse, but he said we wouldn't be ready for it. So one of the things we talk about in business agility is about the ability to anticipate and adapt. And I'll touch on that a little bit later on. What we are starting to see, though, is a change, and a very positive change in terms of economic recovery. So there was a headline in the Wall Street Journal, I think it was on Sunday, is that the economic recovery is here, and it's unlike anything you've seen. So this is very much focused on the American economy, but it was saying that Americans have never had so much savings in their bank accounts. So many people are leaving their jobs to start new businesses. And it's because of the amount of money that's been thrown into the economy. And this time, unlike the 2008 economic crash, the money's not being thrown at the people that caused the problem, which were the banks. The money's being thrown at the citizens. So there's a lot more money going on. And you'll see in the PwC at the bottom, the 24th Annual Global CEO Survey, how people, CEOs that were interviewed for this, are actually that much more confident on economic growth over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's really highlighted as well on this particular slide that I'm going to show you next, which you will see as it, sorry, for some reason my slide doesn't want to change. But this slide over here, and it should actually be, yes, there it is. As you see, it's changing. So it has the 2020 economy, the 2021 and the 2022. You'll see it'll go back to 2020. But you'll see the reds, all the reds in 2020. So most of the world was really struggling. But here in 21, we see it going towards greens. And in 2022, even stronger greens. So the economies are growing. And that's really good news for business as a whole. But one of the things, again, coming back to the ability to anticipate and adapt to change, is that are you in the right business? Is your business well set up to actually take advantage of the changes that are happening in the global economy? And if we have a look at our next slide here, you'll see that these are the best and worst industries in terms of performance. And your top 6 industries have increased their revenue by $275 billion, whereas the bottom 6 have, their revenues have decreased by $373 billion. So top, you've got semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, personal products, software, technology, media. And the bottom, you've got capital goods, insurance, banks, diversified financial, utilities, and energy. It doesn't mean that you need to move away from those in the bottom 6, but what are you doing to become a lot more competitive there? And are you seeing what the future brings? And again, how do you anticipate and adapt to move towards those types of industries that are doing really well? It reminds me of an excerpt I saw on CNN just after the pandemic started in America, where there was this brewery in the USA that it immediately saw an opportunity to use the same manufacturing process that it had to then start manufacturing hand sanitizers and disinfectants. So it stopped brewing beer and started making hand sanitizers and disinfectants because it saw where the market was going to. This is a quote from Klaus Schwab, who is, a founding executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. In the new world, it's not the big fish which eats the small fish, but it's the fast fish which eats the slow fish. So I think that's a big change that we're seeing happening. So it's much more around how quickly you can adapt, your speed to market, your speed to transition. And we're seeing so many big companies that are really struggling with that. Rita McGrath on the left, she's one of, almost one of the top strategists that are referenced around the world today. She's concerned in that we're working with outdated tools and assumptions. And if we have a look at the right-hand side, this is what's commonly referred to as Martek's law. And Martek's law basically says that the rate of change in terms of innovation has grown exponentially over the last 15 to 20 years. But the way that we manage businesses has grown very logarithmically, meaning the way we manage businesses today has not changed much since 40, 50 years ago. We still see companies religiously using things like balanced scorecard, which are still relevant, but have you changed the way you look at your balanced scorecard to be able to close that capability gap in this world where I think Justin Trudeau, who's the president of Canada, also at the World Economic Forum, said in 2018, the world is changing faster today than it's ever changed before, but today is the slowest it'll ever change into the future. How ready are you and your management team and your executives around closing that capability gap to meet the changing needs? We see companies that are starting to adopt their technology a lot more, are obviously doing a lot better than their cohorts. So on the bottom left, you see companies that are particularly using AI adoption. the economy-wide output gain losses from peers, transition costs, capital expenditures, they have a total growth rate of 122%, where the companies that are laggards in AI adoption, and I only use AI as an example, there's so many other technologies, but they are down 23%. So we are seeing the companies that are adapting to the new world are changing, and those that are not adapting are getting worse off. So what are the strategic implications? Most established firms are struggling to deliver significant organic growth, innovate at a pace within legacy 20th century structures and cultures. So again, that outdated management, also those very bureaucratic ERP systems that are in place, balancing delivering results today with investing in innovation for tomorrow, adopting new ways of work even when they suspect they need to, finding the capacity to drive the strategic change and innovation they know they need, and developing cohesive strategies to solve these collective challenges. So what's the recipe then, if we take a look at that? Well, we see the emerging recipe for success as being business agility. Now, I know we have Evan Laybourne on here, and such a fantastic champion for business agility around the world. And I remember us talking about the strategy for the Business Agility Institute. It was probably almost a year ago now. And what Evan said, he eventually wants the Business Agility Institute just to be called the Good Management Institute in the future, because this is all about the way of managing your companies going forward. And we're seeing the headlines all over the place: Harvard Business Review, Forbes, McKinsey. Now, I know a lot of people don't like McKinsey, but one thing I can tell you, especially if you're in the world of agility, McKinsey has some amazing research and articles that they share for free. And I'm not promoting McKinsey. I also think that, in certain things they do, we could question that. But in terms of their research, they give a lot to us. So we're seeing that change in, what people are reporting on. And if if business agility is the recipe, then the ingredients are a deeper, more nuanced understanding of your customer. So your customers sit at the center of everything you do. Accelerated, experiment-driven innovation. Improved prioritization, simplified delivery, and tech-enabled efficiency. So we're often seeing, people not spending, or companies not spending their resources where they should be spending their resources. So we talk about that improved prioritization, and prioritize those initiatives that will give you your best ROI. Evolved approaches to leadership and culture, core technology, and agile ways of working. So I think I know Pia Maria is on later on. I'm really looking forward to her talk. HR plays such a key role in enabling business agility right across the organization. And it's much more about how they enable agility within the organization rather than how they use agile in their own practices. And the same for finance and legal, et cetera, et cetera. Leadership, I think we still got a lot of work to do in that area, moving from command and control leadership to servant leadership. By saying it doesn't mean that it's happening. And then real-time insights to understand what's working, what's not, and where a pivot may be needed. So the target outcomes that we're driving from that is increased customer satisfaction and loyalty, accelerated innovative solutions, increased revenue and financial results, increased strategic alignment and adaptability, simplified delivery structures and practices, improved collaboration and agile ways of working, improved adaptive core tech capabilities, increased employee engagement and empowerment. So again, and I didn't write this all for Evan, by the way, a definition that Evan Laybourne and Sally Alata came up with in terms of business agility. The two words that I've put in italics, anticipate and disrupt, are just two words that I actually added to their original definition. So I hope, Evan, I haven't upset you by doing that, and I know I haven't, because you're such a great guy. But it's the ability to anticipate and adapt to change, learn and pivot, deliver at speed, and thrive in a competitive market. because gone are the days when big eats small. Today, fast is eating slow. The ability to disrupt, learn, and deliver faster than competitors may be the only sustainable competitive advantage. So on the right, we see the problems that we're trying to solve for. So it's ineffective team design, slow time to market. I'm not going to read all of them. Demand and capacity are not aligned. No discovery process, not measuring what matters, limited voice of the customer, teams not aligned to business outcomes, etc. There's a whole lot there. And then on the bottom left is, this comes out of the Scaled Agile website. And again, I know there's a lot of people that don't like Scaled Agile. At the end of the day, we're a Scaled Agile house, but what Chad Williams, who's talking later today, and I say is that, we don't drink the Kool-Aid, meaning we meet the client where they're at. We have a look at what they're doing, and if they want to use another framework, that's all good and well, as long as they're being agile and not just doing agile. And here's some of the results that they've seen from case studies at Scaled Agile is 50% faster time to market, 50% defect reduction, 35% increase in productivity, and 30% happier, more motivated employees. There's a whole lot of case studies there. And not only, they're not just tech companies. You'll see PepsiCo's there, Accenture's there, Air France, KLM is there, AstraZeneca's there. And on the right, you see a whole lot of public sector organizations that have also adopted Agile and are really achieving great results through it. So the world we live in today is about hyper innovation. Intellectual capital is more important than physical or monetary capital. So I always talk to organizations and say that I think that those companies that have the best talent in the future will be the ones that will win, not those that have the best technology, because at the end of the day, it's the talent that develops the technology. Boundaries are blurred, so we live in a global village. New products can be created more cheaply and faster than ever before. Markets are getting bigger, especially now in the world where, we have to, by default, collaborate with each other. We do see certain countries trying to protect their markets, but the markets are definitely getting bigger, but they're also getting smaller. And what that means is that companies can't, like particularly the banks, you saw the banks were struggling. They're the guys that most probably used to try and be everything to everybody, but they have to start becoming more focused on what they're really good at. They're becoming faster and more efficient. The lifespan of the most innovative and successful products are shorter than ever before. Lifespan of companies is shrinking. Every industry, company, and product will undergo significant change or face disruption, and you are next. Make sure you're ready for it. Make sure you can anticipate and adapt. At Be Agile, we created the Impact Lattice framework. We call it Lattice because you can move up and down within this framework. It's really not a model, but what we found is that quite often you'd have one team working in the business on digital transformation, another one on agile transformation, another one on strategic initiatives, and none of them are talking to each other. So this framework really says, let's just try and bring all the interventions that are happening within the organization. Let's bring them together and have one view of them. So literally the imagine is where your strategic and innovation is going to happen, your future trend thinking. Your maximize is where you look at your resources and you prioritize. Your perform is very much where the agile is going to happen, also your automation and digital transformation. Your adapt is, as you know, we need to continuously look at what we're doing, adapt and pivot. Captivate is very much around the people side of stuff, authentic culture and mindset and workplace. And then transform. Do you need to move away from what you're currently doing, like that brewery, and move to something different? So my last slide is the key benefits of enterprise lean and agile practices. It's increased customer centricity, increased innovation, accelerated speed to market, clearer prioritization and expectations, increased productivity, increased predictability, increased quality, efficiency, improved scale delivery, increased transparency, reduced risks, and improved morale. And the core performance metrics, revenue and profitability, operating margins, market share, brand equity, customer satisfaction, employee engagement, adaptability, resiliency. And again, I am going to apologize to the translators. I know that I went. It's unfortunately whoever had that terrible job of translating. I'm so passionate about this, and I just really get to go. So again, apologies for that. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I think it's now time for questions.
Thank you, Myles. That was a lovely presentation. We have one observation here or question from Gilles. He's asking on your slide number 14, are those numbers coming from Scaled Agile, aka SAFe?
They are coming from a Scaled Agile, but they come out from case studies of companies that have implemented Scaled Agile. So if you go to the Scaled Agile website, you'll see a whole lot of case studies they have there, and those are the aggregation of the results of those case studies. So they're not fictitious numbers, they come out of the actual case studies.
Thank you. One other question, you talked about ineffective organizational design. And
yes.
We know that companies are undergoing transformations, implementing frameworks such as SAFe or any other framework. What do you think of this way of focusing on organizational design? And I want to know your point of view on this. And if there's any improvement, what do you propose or suggest?
Great question, Sami. I think, first of all, I just want to touch on the transformation part. I think transformation as a word is thrown around so much, and often it's misunderstood. So if you're transforming your whole organization, that means you transform the people side, the technology side, the operational side. Just because I do an agile transformation does not mean I'm doing a full organizational transformation. Just because I do a digital transformation, the same. So if we're looking at transformation as a whole, it must be right across the board. To come to your question of org design, one of the things we need to make sure is that we're designing the business to optimize the flow of value. So that's important, optimize the flow of value through the business to customers, shareholders, employees, community, etc. Now, one of the things I think that HR to a large extent, and I come from an HR background, by the way, and I've done a lot of org design. One thing that HR and other parts of the business are going to have to do is unlearn many things. So in the past, where we've had an org design for a particular organization, we take the whole organization and we use the org design for that. What I'm finding working for us in organizations is that certain parts of the business are well set up to use agile practices. So there'll be a different org design there, network, collaborative, cross-functional teams, teams of teams, and teams of teams of teams. But that particular structure may not necessarily be ideal for a call center or a finance department. So there may need to be a different organizational structure for there. So I think from org design, we need to say there's definitely not a one size fits all across the world. And also within organizations, there shouldn't be a one size fits all.
Thank you. That reminds me of Jack Welch's quote, who said, who is a CEO of General Electric, and he said, if the rate of the changes on the outside outpace the rate of change on the inside, the end is near. So my guess is the best organizational design is the one who adapts as quickly as the market, and there is no fixed design nowadays. Okay, thank you.
And I think it's something what you're also saying is that you've got to continuously be looking at it. You know, companies set their design and then they leave it for 5 years. The world is changing externally all the time, so make sure you're changing with it.
Exactly. At some point you said the best are getting better and the worst are getting worse, right? And I wanted to ask you about the place of complacency. How can companies know or detect that they are in this in the first or the latter category?
Well, and it's a great. So I always talk about three types of companies, and it can be applied to people as well. There's those companies that make things happen, those companies that watch things happen, and then those companies that wonder what happened. You definitely don't want to be in that third group of people when suddenly your business, like a Kodak or Sears or whatever it is, suddenly goes out of business. If you're an executive team within an organization and you are not aware of what's going on in your environment, in your markets, then you first of all your board should be asking questions about you. I think strategic foresight is becoming so much more important about just seeing that next horizon and horizon three about what's coming so that you can actually take advantage of that. And it's not that necessarily that some people have secrets. It's just some companies are just much more open to the idea that they need to change and move with the market changes. So yeah, definitely, I think that everybody has the opportunity. It's up to the executives to move in that direction.
Okay, thank you, Myles. This brings us to the end of our talk with you. Thank you for being here with us. Right after the commercial spot, we will find Pia Maria Torrance, and I will introduce you later. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.